Recording live? I think we're recording live. Okay, I think we are. Recording live, officially. Hello guys, welcome. Welcome to Overthinkers Society. I'm Suli. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you. I feel like it's now expected of me to start the podcast with recording live. I feel like I feel compelled to start the podcast with that now. I mean, I've always kind of, it's kind of become a habit though. So I guess it's kind of like, you know how, I don't know if you guys ever listened to Joe Rogan podcast before, but he always starts most of his episodes with like, we're live, or like, we're live, everybody, ladies and gents, or something. So I guess for me, that's kind of recording live for me is the equivalent for me. But Joe Rogan's cool. It's been a while since I listened to his podcast though. But it's really like he covers a lot of a lot of cool stuff. Although like most of the time, it's usually like his love for meat, and I think like it's elk that he especially loves, and hunting, bow hunting, and weed most of the time. So most of the time I don't really relate to a lot of the things that he's saying, but it's super interesting nonetheless. I love Joe Rogan. I should probably start listening to him more often. So yes, welcome again to another episode of Overthinkers Society. This week I actually wanted to talk about something that I cannot believe that I never really talked about, which is overthinking itself. This podcast is about overthinking. It's literally called Overthinkers Society, and I realized the other day that I actually didn't talk about overthinking on this series before, I am disappointed in myself. How dare I even call myself an overthinker if I have not overthought about overthinking? That is the ultimate way of overthinking about things. I cannot believe I didn't cover that before. So I'm going to talk about overthinking on this episode of Overthinkers Society. But prior to overthinking about overthinking, I wanted to announce something real quick. I'm launching Patreon, finally. I'm doing a live stream this Friday. For some of you, it would be a Saturday morning. For me, it would be Friday. Okay, so I'm doing a live stream on Saturday morning for me, but for some of you guys, it will be Friday afternoon, Friday evening for some of you, depending on the country and the time zones that you're in. And during the live stream, I'll be launching the whole Patreon campaign, and I'll like talk about it and go through the whole page with you, maybe even talk about some of the perks, the rewards, and the tiers. That'll be kind of like one of the subjects that I will kind of cover with you guys during the live stream. And after the live stream that day, right after it, I'll probably go on Discord to just kind of chill with you guys for a bit. And Discord is going to be one of the main kind of things I included as the rewards on Patreon. So I kind of wanted to create a place where we can all hang out, and I'll pop in once in a while. Maybe you can just hang out and chill and talk. And I've created like a separate channel. I'm frankly not very familiar with Discord myself. I did my best to kind of like lay it out as straightforward and in a way that makes sense as much as possible. But hopefully it'll grow. I will grow. I'll learn more, and the channels will grow alongside with my journey, basically. But for now, it'll be kind of like general chat and like some Q&A places and announcement boards. And there's a fun one where you guys can kind of submit your inspirations, favorite memes or artworks, or even some of your songs, whatever that sparks you creatively. You can just kind of dump on it, and then I'll look at it. We'll all look at it, and then we can just kind of share our works together. So that's one of the channels on Discord. But yeah, that'll all launch. That'll all go live during the stream this Saturday morning. For some of you, it'll be Friday afternoon, evening. So yeah, stay tuned. It's coming. Patreon's launching this week. I'm really excited. Okay, back to the podcast. Yes. So let's talk about overthinking. I don't know which came first. If it was my decision to cover overthinking on this episode of Overthinkers Society, or having an overthinking session. I wouldn't call it a session. I would just like an overthinking spurt of overthinking, if you will, just like any other day. I don't know which came first. I don't know what actually sparked this, but I realized that I cannot overthink on cue. Does that make sense? Like, I don't. I've only just realized that, and I probably should have realized it. I probably should have known this all along. But I've only recently just realized that I can't overthink on cue. It's not like I can just sit down and be like, okay, I'm gonna overthink. I'm gonna like do the whole like overthinking chain of thought thing. Whatever that's happening in my head when I overthink, I'm gonna do it now. Okay, let's go. Starting now. It's not like that. And I think I kind of realized that when, like, through several sessions of editing this podcast, some episodes of this podcast, where I realized that like 80% of the footages that I need to cut out, it's most of the time like just me sitting there and be like, just like this, just like this for like 10 minutes straight. And that's like 80 to 90% of the footages that I cut out during the editing phase of this podcast. So I think that's when I realized that, okay, maybe I need to kind of reconfigure the way I carry out this podcast, because it's just kind of me sitting here with my microphone and thinking out loud. And I wish I could just kind of just vomit out everything that I've overthought about throughout the week or in real time, and just spit out all my thoughts. But that's usually not the case. When I turn the camera on and the microphone on and sit down, it's usually just blank. It's kind of like one of those things where when you're put in the spotlight, you just blank out. It's just like you can't think of anything. It's kind of like that for me. So I guess I just found the solution to overthinking. Just turn the camera on and just sit there. That'll stop the overthinking forever. I just found the solution to it all, y'all. I just found it. So yeah, I was just kind of thinking about ways I can structure the way I record this podcast in a more sensible way. And I decided that I am gonna start journaling. I got a journal. I got a book. So yeah, I just got this journal the other day. It's pretty much new. It's pretty much blank except for like one entry that I wrote during this week. And I'm gonna just open up this notepad whenever I start feeling like I'm kind of going down that spiral of thinking too much about something, and I'll just jot it down. And hopefully by the end of the week, or every week when I turn the camera on to start overthinking, I'll open up this notepad and see what I can just kind of overthink more about. So it's basically kind of like having a conversation with my past overthinking self. Oh, this is getting deep. And I will be making some sort of a commentary of my past overthinking stream of thoughts, if that makes sense. I've put some minion stickers and some pig stickers and more minion stickers because I actually quite like minions. Another thing is I I am I do speak to myself a lot, but I think I might have mentioned this before in the previous episodes. But basically, if I talked, I have no problem talking to myself, talking with myself, or however you can put it. But if I actually talked with myself as I do most of the time when I'm alone, it would just end up being a chaos. It would just end up being like random words like squirrels or like, oh, and not actually say anything. Or like, wow, 진짜 배고프다. Or like just like random Koreans just pop out of nowhere and it would just make no sense at all. Like it would just not make any sense. And I kind of want this podcast to make sense for you guys, for the listeners. So I kind of need somebody to talk to. You know, I kind of need someone to actually like respond back to me or like give me some sort of uh, a spark of inspiration or a starting point or a conversation point or some sort of something to grasp onto, rather than just me sitting there and just like shuffling through the chaos that's going in my head that I don't really know what's like. I don't know what's going on. What am I even thinking about? What I don't know what's going on. I need something to grasp onto. And so hence this journal where I just jot down some things, even if it doesn't make any sense in hindsight. And I'm reading some of them now, and it's already not making any sense. At least it'll give me some starting points that I can cover and just kind of ramble on about. So yeah, okay. Oh, I don't know. This is probably gonna be a mess, but I'm gonna try it out anyway. This is me. In the past. I wrote this little entry on July 11th, which is 2 days ago from today on Saturday. I remember it was a nice day to overthink. It was like an optimal day for my head to just go down that same pattern that I've been on all my life. Just it was like it was quite gloomy, but it wasn't raining and it was slightly breezy. Uh, and it was just kind of like a bit of an icky day to go out. It was a good day to stay inside, and just sit there and let the overthinking flow, just like. But yes, I remember the day before was actually really sunny and really nice, and really warm. So those days are the days when I kind of not necessarily not overthink. If I don't do something to keep myself busy and occupied with anything in particular, I would end up feeling super guilty about missing out on the sun or the warmth. So I remember I kept myself very busy, very like very occupied the day before. But the day after, I think I was kind of worn out from the day before, and the weather, like I said, was super chill. So I just kind of let myself have a chill day, which in turn led me to writing this entry. It's starting with overthinking, dot overthinking. So it says overthinking dot overthinking. What do you call these dot thingies? I don't think I even know what it's called in Korean, actually. Uh, brackets? No, they're not brackets. Asterisk is the star thing. I might need to Google that afterwards. Okay, I'm gonna start reading. This should really have been covered before. I mean, Overthinkers Society, but you still haven't overthought about overthinking, and you call yourself an overthinker. What a disappointment. I'm very cynical with myself sometimes. Yeah, I talk to myself pretty mean. I'm gonna just vomit random spurting thoughts. So don't even expect me to make any sense. Haha, booyah! And it just jumps straight into it. What even is overthinking? I mean, everybody's thinking something, so what sets an overthinker apart from the thinker? the negative. This is not making any sense whatsoever. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Okay. So I mean everybody's thinking something. So what? So it's an overthinker part. Okay. I think what I meant was like everybody is thinking something, even if you don't even if you don't associate yourself as a classic overthinker, you're still thinking something. So what classifies one as an overthinker? I think that's what I meant in the sentence. Oh, I actually wrote an answer to this below. It says, I'm half asleep, so I might not make any sense in hindsight, but I think the biggest difference that sets an overthinker apart is the spiral. And I drew like a drawing of what looks like a very ominous storm cloud, and then an arrow pointing out to a series of question marks. Okay. I think I remember now. I think I vaguely remember. So overthinking is, I think the main thing that defines overthinking is the chain of thoughts that are linked to it. So it's not just overthinking about random things just all over the place. It's most of the time about one single topic, whether that may be an unresponded text from somebody, or a misunderstanding between two parties, or I don't know, your bank card getting declined for payment or something. Like it could just be anything, just one topic, and then your thought about that particular thing results in another thought, and then that thought leads to another thought, and that thought leads to another thought. And before you know it, you're in this completely different realm where you've got cancer, you're bankrupt, you've been stolen, your life is doomed, you're into massive trouble or something. And I think that's it. You end up making up schemes, making up stories in your head that's not even true or confirmed in any way, but has resulted from one little thing that's happened, which would probably be nothing. Or at the least not as serious as you make it out to be. But as classic overthinkers, we just kind of start from one thing, and then that just kind of goes through this whole like funnel of chaos and thoughts and just like sitting there and being like, oh my, being in my head and just like, oh my gosh, oh no, this is happening, that is happening, oh this is certainly true, and then that comes out the other side as something that's completely distorted and completely different from what actually is. I think that's it. I think that's what really defines the thought process of an overthinker. I mean, how lovely would it be if we could start with a thought, overthink a little bit, and then come to a neat conclusion where it's like everything's been thought through and we're now at the conclusion, period. How lovely would that be? It would actually be a benefit to be an overthinker if that was always the case. But the thing is, most of the time it's completely different. Overthinking wouldn't be a problem if we always overthought about the good things. For me personally, it's sometimes been very problematic because I always end up overthinking about something that's slightly negative, slightly triggering, slightly irritating. Something that I'm like, oh, I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable about this. And then that I start overthinking about it, and then that becomes a completely different thing where it's just going to ruin my life, you know? So many times I would get like, I would start coughing, or I would get some sort of an ill symptom, and then I would start Googling, which is never a good thing which is never ever a good thing don't Google your symptoms on Google. It's not good. It's not going to do you any good. I mean, it's a famous thing. I mean, I'm sure everybody has experiences where you Google like my throat hurts and you've got, before you know it, you got throat cancer for sure, for certain. I think it's WebMD, Mayo Clinic. Those two are the main two things that come up on Google search when you search symptoms, and those always tell you that you've got cancer for sure. It's always one of those things where it's like, it could be like something mild, but it could be cancer. They always lead up the paragraphs with like symptoms, way to diagnose it and causes, and then it always ends with cancer. It's not very nice to have that as the last thing that you read, and it just lingers and lingers and lingers until you're 100% certain that you've got cancer. Which, I mean, like, it's not like cancer in and of itself is a deadly thing. But it's not very nice. It doesn't feel very nice when that little cough turns into something that turns you into a very ill person. When it could just be a mild case of cold, which has always thankfully been the case for me. Or another time I've texted my crush at the very beginning of a summer break. So it meant like I had 3 months ahead where I wouldn't be going to school. And I texted my crush like at the very beginning of summer and I never got a response. And which wasn't a good thing. Maybe I should have texted towards the end of the summer break so that I would have less time to ponder over the fact that he never texted back. But yes, being the fool that I was, and still probably am, I texted the person that I had a crush on at the very beginning of the summer break, and he didn't respond, so it left me with 3 months of complete headache and complete certainty and devastation that he did not like me back, which turns out wasn't entirely true. I mean, we never, never got together, but it wasn't like he didn't text me back because he didn't like me or didn't felt awkward about texting back, but was because he was abroad and he didn't really check his phone, or maybe he did. I don't know. But yes, turned out he was abroad, and did not apparently have access to the phone. But my point is, I think it's all, most of the time for me, overthinking is something that is completely unnecessary, and I don't have to, like, I don't really need to overthink about this, but I do anyways. It's just the way my brain works, I guess, no matter how much I try. And I don't know, I think rather than, for me, it's now more about trying to find ways I can actually benefit from this tendency of thinking, rather than trying to just stop the overthinking altogether, which is because I'm kind of realizing now that it's pretty much impossible. I can't, it's like I said, I can't overthink or not overthink on cue. It's something that just naturally happens. So for me, it would be either finding a coping mechanism that I can just kind of always go to whenever I find myself overthinking, and ways to kind of turn it on its head and use this overthinking tendency for my own benefit, actually. Both, I think I'm still trying to figure out, and it's a very philosophical thing where it's like, I don't even know when I'm overthinking. It's something that I kind of look back to in hindsight and vaguely think, okay, I think I was maybe thinking too much about it and making assumptions about things that I didn't need to make assumptions about. But I'm still trying to figure out this whole way of thinking. That's why I'm doing this podcast, where I have a platform where I can openly discuss about the updates on the way I'm overthinking, or if you guys can relate to the way I'm overthinking. Doing this podcast, doing this series is a gentle reminder that I do overthink at times, and it's kind of good in an ironic way. By admitting that one is an overthinker, you might actually liberate yourself from sometimes negative effects of overthinking, just by reminding yourself that you do overthink at times. Because I think denial is one of the things that that can be quite toxic. It's kind of like the whole mindfulness thing where you don't realize what's actually happening, even if you're experiencing, until you actually sit down and really ask yourself what's happening. And for me, it's like that. It's like I'm still overthinking. I'm still thinking the way I've always thought. But by throwing in this podcast into my life, it's kind of like having this constant reminder to be more alert and to be more aware of the fact that this is the way you sometimes think. So maybe by being aware of that, you can maybe kind of maybe alleviate some of the ill effects of it. Maybe, but maybe is better than nothing. So I think it's a good thing. I think, and just having a channel where I can just connect with fellow overthinkers, it's really actually lovely because it's not something that I can experience very often in real life. I'm generally not very good at small talks. I like having conversations where I start talking about something with somebody and it just one thing leads to another and it becomes a whole depth of conversation rather than something that it's like, oh, but whether it's nice, okay, it's very nice, bye, you know. So yeah, I like doing this podcast. I love talking about this whole thing. That's my thought about overthinking. Woo, that was a mouthful. I hope that kind of generally covered the generals. Yes, that will be it for today's episode. Thank you for joining me again for yet another overthinking session. That was fun. I've just realized that I've actually had my microphone held up a little closer than I usually do. I think I was a little bit queasy about overthinking. That's like an extra layer of deepness there. So I think I got like extra nervous about it. Yeah, hopefully it's not too loud for you guys. But thank you. Thank you again. Can't wait for the live stream. Can't wait for the Patreon campaign to go live this Friday. For some of us, Saturday. Thank you. And see you next episode. Bye. Bye.